Hey.
Hey Rob, how's it going?
Good, good. Come on in. Come on in.
So tell me about today. How's it going?
Today's good. Today's good.
How'd your instruction go today?
Instruction's been pretty good. We start out slow and then we kind of create momentum as we go. So.
Good. I see the scores are getting better, so that's always a positive. Thank you for doing what you're doing right now.
Yeah. Well, we're in there doing it. You know.
So tell me what's going on with this investigation.
Well, the investigation. So let me just give you a brief summary of what's going on. A little kind of background information. And so, basically, we work at Del Valle Middle School, and I was tasked with having to find any gaps in the instruction between various diversified groups or races. And what we found out was that we don't really have a diversified population there, and so we're mostly Hispanic.
Yeah, our EL population.
Yes, and so we have a large percentage coming over from Mexico, from Juarez, and then we also have our own population. So we don't really have any even demographically we don't have different races as maybe handful. Count on a handful as far as whites or.
Our border city.
Yes, and so so then after I spoke with the instructor, we decided that I was going to look at the writing scores for 7th grade. I was going to look at the writing scores and find out, because there was a little bit of a gap between our school scores and then the district scores. So that's what I started to do the investigation on, and to try to figure out why we were having it and what were the processes and strategies that we had in place to kind of address, starting to bridge that gap.
Good. So what's your rationale for the selection of this area of concern, I guess, about those gaps?
Yeah, well, it was kind of just that, it was that we have a new principal, Mrs. Alarcon, and she's kind of tasked us, our goal is to increase our scores for the meets level and the master's level. We do okay with approaches, but they want to increase the scores for meets and masters, and then on top of that, the writing. So the writing, we're kind of behind the district, and usually with all our other scores, we're with the district or above. So there's a little bit of work to do there. So the whole thing was just trying to figure out what strategies, what type of interventions, what type of professional developments were in place that's going to try to support this goal and its teachers and the students.
That's awesome. So what's the importance of knowing how to navigate this data using that taper report and all those coaching partner feedbacks?
Well, the whole thing was, it was basically what I was going to do was I was going to have a conversation with Mrs. Alarcon. And I was going to have to kind of, ask her, kind of have a difficult conversation because, I'm not, for one, she's new, and I'm not really sure, we don't really have a great relationship, like what I've had in the past with, because, she's new. And then the other part is that I don't know how she feels or, about, addressing the issue. I'm pretty sure she has strategies in place. But, that was one of the things. I didn't want her to think that I was coming in there and trying to overstep and hey, what are you doing, hey, how are you addressing this problem? You got us doing it, but what's your role in this? So I didn't want to go in there like that. But, so that was, pretty much what we're trying to do.
And how does that affect our campus? How does that affect our culture with us?
Well, it affects our culture.
Her being new, I guess.
Yeah, well, her being new, so, we don't know her. We don't know. I mean, we're hopeful. But at the same time, we're used to being a high-performance school with a high-performing leader, and really honestly, there's some kind of I don't know, say skepticism, but there's some hesitation as to just get on board and figure it out. So when I was speaking with her, or when I was attempting to getting ready to and prepare to speak with her, we wanted to make sure that we were going to come at it in a purely professional way and definitely unassuming. We didn't want to get in there and start to be intimidating or turn that whole thing sideways. So but the way it can affect the school, though, going back to your question, is that by the strategies that are in place and the interventions and the professional development, that should help improve our scores, and not just I wanted to see how it was going to be a holistic approach, or what was the whole approach to that.
And get our teachers to buy into the system too. It's gonna be hard.
Yeah, definitely. So I definitely wanted to get in there, but I didn't want, like I said, I didn't want to turn her off. I wanted to keep the conversation going, and so that was the whole thing. And I don't know, did you ask me about role playing?
Yeah. So how did the coaching practice? And
Well,
the
I
use
thought
of those
well, I
different
thought it was good the way we were interacting and the way I was able to and I want to say I appreciate that you helped me. You know what I mean? There was a
Very
big
helpful.
help with this assignment.
I'm glad it helped.
Yeah. So the role playing helped because as we were going through the questions, there was some kind of snags, that we would hit, and then we'd be like, ooh, let's avoid that question, or like, oh, okay, well, if it goes this way, let's go ahead and let it go that way, but make sure that we bring it back in. So, I think just me and you role playing and me asking the questions and then your responses helped me to, kind of decide, if that was a good question, should we get rid of that question, should we rephrase that question, and so it was just a good way to prepare for the actual interview.
So, what's your self-assessment on the skill level in conducting that difficult conversation?
Well, I think I've always been pretty good with speaking with people,
Yeah.
with having conversations with people, and I think the thing is just I'm really good at getting people to talk, and so when they talk, I can kind of ease the conversation. So I've been pretty good at that, and then and then that way, kind of being candid, with the conversation kind of opens it up, and then being honest and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely great.
So I definitely see you doing a good job.
Wait. Sorry. Yeah, let me go back. I forgot. Yeah. Well, I wanted to say that I did have one of the things that I would have to work on for myself is the idea that sometimes I'm ready I'm too quick to, if somebody starts to feel uncomfortable, I'm really quick to kind of say a response for them instead of letting them kind of think it over and then, wait for their response. Like if I feel that they're getting uncomfortable or stressed out, then I want to say something to try to ease it. And I know that, in navigating difficult conversations, we have to kind of let them, mull over it a little bit and stew over it, just, process it.
I can see that your teachers they're buying into your system and they react well and they enjoy your conversation. So
Thank you.
So what's your overall conclusion about this process?
I think it's a great process. I think that, having difficult conversations with anybody, be it your spouse, be it your kids, be it the students, be it your principals, be it your colleagues, you're not always going to agree. And because you're not always going to agree, you have to be able to approach a conversation in a manner that's focused. You can't let any other biases or even like your own self-esteem get into it. That's one of the things that I picked up was that I didn't want to say things that was going to be could come off as intimidating or assuming. I wanted it to be kind of an open and really I wanted it to be more of a learning experience. From a learning standpoint, that what we were going to do was to kind of learn about the process, learn about your perspective, and that's what I thought. That's what I was hoping we were doing when we were doing the role playing, because I was trying to open that up a little bit. But overall, I thought it was a great conversation. What we decided that she had said that we were going to do was PD. She thought that professional development was key. We're doing a couple of interventions, writing across the curriculum. We're trying to, one of the things that she focused on, Ms. Alarcon focused on, was that we wanted to have writing done in all content areas with fidelity, and so there's going to be this supervision part where the either your role as an instructional coach would go in there and ensure that they're actually keeping up with the goal.
That's good.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Thanks for meeting with me today.
Well, I thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I thank you for helping me
Of course.
and coming over to Pettis Detective
No problem.
Investigators.
Thank you again.
Thanks.